Today's discussion is on Sir Thomas Watt, whom we know as a popular sonneteer, poet, diplomat, and definitely an English politician. So he not only had contributions in the literary field, but also as a politician in the Tudor time. So we know that he belonged to the Tudor age, which roughly began in the 1480s, preceded by Middle Ages, and followed by the Jacobean era. So certainly the Tudor age ends in 1603 and has certain relations with the Elizabethan age as well. Before getting into a detailed talk on Sir Thomas Watt, let's see, let's have a glimpse to Henry VIII's monarchical life. So talking about Henry VIII, who is certainly one of the powerful monarchs of the Tudor age, and the other monarchs of the Tudor age were Henry VII, Henry Henry VI, Edward VI, Mary I, and so on. But Henry VIII had a profound influence on England. He was not only strict but also powerful. So we see that even though he was powerful and was having a very healthy surplus with a very stable realm, but certainly there was a lack of application to government, business, and administration that broke England's regime and decorum altogether. Apart from his monarchical lack of application and balance of laws and regimes, we see that he marries 6 times. First to Catherine of Aragon, who is the mother of Mary I, Anne Boleyn, mother of Elizabeth I, Jane Seymour, certainly favorite of Henry VIII, who is the mother of Edward VI. And other three wives are Anne Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr. Now, during this chaotic turbulence, socio-political divisions, we see Sir Thomas Watt coming up with great political ideas and affairs. So, Sir Thomas Watt in the Tudor age becomes a very popular contributor in the political and the literary field. He was born in 1503, Kent, England, and died in Dorset in the year 1542 in England. Now, if we talk about his literary field and his contribution, then definitely it is his poems and sonnets which has got a worldwide recognition. Sir Thomas Watt is definitely referred as the lyric poet who is behind the establishment, as we all know, the sonnet style in English literature. So he's certainly one of them who has introduced sonnet in the English form and style and language. So, talking about his personal life, we see that he was born to Anne Skinner and Sir Henry Watt. Later, we see that he becomes the ambassador of Henry VIII's court and certainly engages in different affairs, political and social. Now, we see that Watt's father, who is Henry Watt, was associated with Sir Thomas Boleyn. And definitely, there were certain associations coming up with Anne Boleyn as well, who is supposedly one of the strongest woman figure in the court of Henry VIII. So she is not just the wife of Henry VIII initially, but also a very form of intelligentsia because she was a very strong headed personality. But even though her life was definitely not smooth, so we see that Henry VIII had executed Anne Boleyn later on. So we'll come to that part a little later. So we see that it was Watts's associations and his father's association that got him to a very acclaimed position being a politician. And definitely Watts's father, who was associated with Sir Thomas Boleyn, was laying a major influence in Sir Thomas Watts's life as well. Meanwhile, we see that Sir Thomas Watt was engaged in diplomatic and ministerial missions and campaigns, and throughout his life, he had remained successful in almost all his endeavors. And easily, whatever turmoils or battles that had come along his ministerial or diplomatic missions, we see that he had overcome them very easily because he was definitely a powerful and a very intellectual person altogether. Now, talking about his marriage life, we see that he was married in 1520 to Elizabeth Brooke, who played a major role in his life. And with Elizabeth Brooke, we see he bore a son who was Thomas, who had led Watts's rebellion after his death. So definitely his son Thomas have had a greater affinity with Mother Elizabeth and Father Thomas Watt. So roughly this is an outline to the grandeur of Sir Thomas Watt. Now if we focus on his contribution to literary sphere, we see that he loved experimenting with language form, style and structure. Now we see that definitely he has laid significantly uh, contributing not only to the poems but also building sonnet. And we see that during his development of sonnet in English, we see there is certain influence of the Italian and the classical models. So, as a renowned poet and a sonneteer, he was influenced by Petrarchan style as well. So, with this, we become aware of the imitations and translations of the Petrarchan sonnets that was taken by Sir Thomas Watt. So, after making several translations, we see him writing few inspirational and powerful English sonnets. And definitely, we see that some of the subjects and themes were also borrowed from the Petrarchan form and intentions. And certainly, it carries a great familiarity with the Petrarchan form and style, but it had a sestate scheme, that is CDDC double E. So, this was peculiar of Sir Thomas Watt. So Sir Thomas Watt brings forth sonnet structure of three quatrains to remember that follows a closing couplet. So once again, we see that even though he had undergone certain translation limitations of the Petrarch and had been indebted to the Italian and classical models, but also had come out to develop the English sonnet style and developing and establishing the quatrains with a closing couplet and a sestate scheme of CDDC and double E. Another few experimentations that we see of Sir Thomas Watt are terza rima, ottava rima, epigrams, and rondeau. So gradually we see that he made a common use of iambic tetrameter. Lastly, we see him introducing the Potler measure. Now, what is a Potler measure? It's basically a form which has rhyming couplet of a 12-syllabic iambic line, and this 12-syllabic iambic line is also known as Alexandrine, which is followed by a 14-syllable iambic line called 14-year. So if I repeat, it is we find that Sir Thomas Watt introducing Potler measure that forms rhyming couplet of a 12-syllabic iambic line, which is known as Alexandrine, and followed by a 14-syllable iambic line, which is 14-year. Now, this is all about the experimentation that he had made in the literary sphere. Now, talking about his poems, we see that 96 of them appeared posthumously in Total's Miscellany, which is also a collaborative work with Surrey. And 10 of them of these 96 poems have been the translations of the Petrarchan sonnets. And the rest 31 are the English sonnets. So the rest of the are his some of the potential and influential poems. Now, keeping apart the literary contributions, we see that he had been associated with the name Anne Boleyn, whom we have also heard towards the first half of the audio that Anne Boleyn was the wife of second wife of Henry VIII, who was the mother of Elizabeth I. Now, we see that later on, as we study Sir Thomas Watt's history, we see that Anne Boleyn, who is the second wife of Henry VIII, had certain emotional associations with Sir Thomas Watt as well, and was also found guilty of high treason and betrayal, being on a queenly pedestal. Now, she was a courtly queen, so definitely she belongs from the elite. So, definitely, when a positional person of the Tudor age had committed a crime which is beyond law and in shameful act, then definitely it has to be subjected to punishment. On the other side, we see that Sir Thomas Watt was also caught in the adultery, and he was imprisoned of adultery in 1520. And this was because he allegedly committed adultery with Anne Boleyn, somebody from the courtly position. So he was then imprisoned in the Tower of London, similar to Anne Boleyn, and was released on as he because he had strong familial connection with Thomas Cromwell. So during his time of imprisonment, it was Anne Boleyn who was executed by Henry VIII due to the due to the committing of adultery. That largely later we see was impacting Watts's life. So certainly there were rumored affairs between Boleyn and Watt. This certainly had taken a toll on his life, which is reflected in few sonnets, and which is of course definitely something rumored, but definitely we can say that it can't be negated altogether. So it is both apparent and observant. Thomas Watt was then devastated with the execution of Anne Boleyn, and definitely he had come up with certain potential sonnet of the time was Whose List to Hunt and others. So when he returned back from the imprisonment, he had gained his political power, his intelligentsia, and definitely uh, came up with certain ministerial proceedings. And he didn't just succumb to the idea that Anne Boleyn is no more there, even though he had left devastated, but his professional life, his orientation towards becoming a sonneteer and also a true politician was never hindered. He was later given a royal pardon and was soon restored to favor and given various royal offices. We can now conclude by saying that amidst all possible chaos that he had faced, beginning from the ministerial affairs, battles, and fights, and negotiations, and definitely execution of Anne Boleyn and his failed marriage with Elizabeth Brooke and his imprisonment, but definitely all the chaoses that he had been experiencing never had hindered his personal passion, had never hindered his personality altogether. So he had been definitely one of the profound influencer of the Tudor age and had contributed as a poet, sonneteer, diplomat, and a politician. And even today, we know of him being an English pioneer who sets love with an open end of perception and celebrates love in all his sonnets and poems along thorny paths of uncertainty. So, this is a very quick outline of Sir Thomas Watt. If you want some detailed study of the Tudor age, his sonnets, so you can definitely mail me or comment down below. Hope you've liked the video. Thank you.